What is up, you guys? This week, I was going back into my past assignments from Alverno. A huge piece about Alverno is that when you do speeches, when you go do public speaking, they record you. They make sure there is a camera set in the back of the room that records your entire presentation. Because a huge piece about Alverno is they want you to self-assess how you did. So when you give a speech, you re-watch yourself, and then you do a self-assessment to kind of go over like what went really well, what you can improve on, all of that fun stuff. So you already know that I still have all of my speeches. So I just did my level 4 presentation, which was recorded, and that got me thinking. Let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to my very first speech that was recorded. So here you go.
Start talking.
Go ahead.
Awesome. So I figured I'd start this speech off talking about how I used to look at the news before we started this unit. Before we started this unit, my friend would send me a text message and be like, Kim, oh my gosh, did you check out this article? And I'd see the headline, click it, and be like, whoa, that's crazy. And then I'd share it to all my friends, or I'd click a link on Facebook, or even, if I was feeling extra that day, I would go into Google, look up whatever story I was looking up, and click the first one that popped up because you know what? It was first for a reason, right? Wrong. So after this unit, I really started looking into the news deeper. And I kind of developed this triangle of because I love triangles. And I feel like when we look at the news, the number one thing we're looking for is trust. And I feel like when we read articles, we want to trust it. We want to feel comfortable with what we're sharing with our friends. And then I developed 3 other pillars that help hold the top pillar in place. Because without these other 3, the top one's going to crumble. So, let's hope I spell this right. Sure. And then it was truthfulness. You guys are all intrigued because I'm writing on the board. So then throughout my speech, I'm going to kind of go over why I feel like these things hold up trust. Spelling look okay? Rock on. So the news story I chose to do was Homeland Security is considering separating families illegally crossing the border. I read this and I felt like it would hit international news, so I felt like that would be no issue. And I feel like it's a topic that I didn't really know about, so I was curious to know what was going on. So the gist of what I got from the story, I read 3 articles that agreed with each other and then one that kind of changed the story a little bit. I'll get into that. But with the ones that agreed, they basically said that they wanted to separate families to make sure everyone was documented. That was the basis of the story. So the first one I went up to, I searched into Google, ABC News popped up. And I know ABC, isn't the Fosters on ABC? I feel like, yeah. So I was like, okay, ABC, I feel you. I feel like this was a good place to start because it was short, it got to the basis of the story, but that was looking at it positively. Honestly, okay, so the title was Homeland Security Considering Separating Families Illegally Crossing the Border. So I was like, okay, yeah. And then a literal quote from the article was, "It is something that is being considered," Homeland Security official said. Yeah, I feel like I got that from the title. So I feel like this was a good place to start. But whoever wrote it, I felt like they read the title and went, I'm going to think of whatever I can make up from that title and not really look into the story. So that really bothered me, and it reminded me of this meme. Okay, you guys know I love my memes. So there she is. Who is she? She is me. So I'm going to show you guys this meme. And when I read this short article, this is what it reminded me of. So if you heard what she said, I'll just review it with you because the first time I saw this, I was like, she said 10 people died last night in the Bronx due to a fire that killed 10 people in the Bronx last night during a fire. So reading this short article, I was like, that's what it felt like. It felt like they were just repeating sentences, using what they could figure out from the title, and it really wasn't giving me the story. It was just giving me what I could have wrote myself. I could work for ABC, honestly, if that's what they're expecting. Oh, I should click off of this. I was about to try to click my PowerPoint. That wouldn't have worked. Awesome. So after ABC, I was like, okay, let's look into some more articles. Oh, whoops. rewind, analysis. So with going with the ABC News, a big pillar that I look for is analysis. I look for the story to go in depth, for the story to get the full coverage, for it to like really dive into the story, because I appreciate when news stories like really go into the story. I said story like 6 times. Hey, live text. But yeah, analysis. We'll just keep moving on. So The Hill was the next story that I read. And The Hill was a little longer. I was like, okay, I'm feeling this. But an exact quote from the article was, the Department of Homeland Security is considering forcefully separating adults and children. So I read that and I was like, forcefully? Because the first article, they didn't say that at all. It was just considering separating families. So when I read forcefully, the picture in my mind completely changed. Is that a 4-minute mark? Got you. So the story completely changed. So I first saw the story as something like, okay, they're just separating families. And after I read forcefully, I saw guards like tearing apart families, children crying. It completely changed the story. So that's where truthfulness comes into play. This was the only article that used the word forcefully. And while I was first reading the stories, I was like, okay, I'm not sure exactly what the truth is. After I read all of them, I'm like, there's no way The Hill is telling the truth, because no one else used that kind of language. So even changing one word in the story is going to alter the entire thing. And then we got to Reuters. So Reuters was really good. It went into depth. It was truthful. ABC News and Reuters, they had the same kind of information. But as I was reading, I was like, okay, Reuters is probably going to be my one that has hits all my criteria. I looked into some other articles and I noticed that these had the exact same article. Exact same. They copied and pasted it to their own page, which kind of made me think, I don't know if it's different for news sources, but if I can't copy and paste someone else's work and turn it in for my own paper, even if I give them full credit, why can news sources do it? It doesn't make any sense to me. And I had as I was reading the article, I would start reading it and I'd have a That's So Raven moment. I read this article before, are you kidding me? And it leads into independence. I feel like articles should, or news sources should go into the story. They shouldn't just copy and paste oh, this article is good enough. This is probably what I would have said too, and paste it on their own website. That shows me that they didn't want to look into the story, that they clearly thought other news stories were important, and that makes me a little bit uncomfortable. Boom. And then I got to the Washington Post. The Washington Post was the one that hit all of my criteria. I don't know about you guys, but trust the Washington Post. Oh my gosh. Does that mean time up?
That's 7 minutes.
You're good. Finish it out. But
Cute. I warned you. I was ready for this. So the Washington Post hit all of my criteria, and I felt comfortable with it. I feel comfortable with the Washington Post because, I don't know, I feel like most of the sources from it are trustworthy. So it hit all of my criteria. And boom. So those are my 3 pillars of how I feel like the news should be critiqued. Because I feel like with analysis, depth into the story, truthfulness, staying consistent, and independence, you're able to form the top tier, which is trust. Cute.
You know, rewatching that, it was actually pretty good. Past Kim, yes, queen, you nailed it, wig. But honestly, the reason I want to have these speeches on my channel, the reason I think it's beneficial, is because, okay, when I'm doing videos like this, I can clip it, I can edit it, I can piece it all together, and boom, upload it, and it flows really nicely. When you go up and do a speech, there is no cut, let me do that again, let's start over. That button, they hit record on that video recorder in the back of the room, and you go. And it's so funny because I try not to look at the camera, but I'm always looking at the camera hey, queen. But I really want to showcase that I get nervous too. I feel like I'm a pretty confident person, but when I do go up and do speeches, I do fumble a little bit. I do trip over my words, but that's okay. Because if you keep going, your speech is going to be amazing. Trust me. Just roll with the punches, joke about it, and keep on moving. So this video is going to be part of a 3-part series. So this is number 1. I have 2 other speeches that I want to show you guys because I feel like this is a really important time to upload these because I'm right in the middle of my time at Alverno College. And I think once I get to the end of my journey, it'll be cool to compare these beginning speeches to how I finish it off. Do you know what I mean? I couldn't even, like, if I'm drawing on the board and I'm doing all this stuff in my first speech, I don't even know what's going to happen in my last speech. There are going to be fireworks. There's going to be like a smoke machine. Oh, this is just level 1. Level 6 is going to be legendary.